الحمد لله وكفى ثم الصلاة والسلام على رسول المصطفى وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا وبعد. We give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We praise Him, we adore Him. We ask Him to ease all our fears and to make all our actions sincere to Him alone. Amen. Today we'll be looking at the first principle of the 4 principles of Islam that the Shaykh wanted to explain to us. And the Shaykh rahimahullah ta'ala, he said that القاعدة الأولى أن تعلم أن الكفار الذين قاتلهم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مقرون أن الله هو الخالق الرازق المحيي المميت المدبر لجميع الأمور ولم يدخلهم ذلك في الإسلام. والدليل قوله تعالى قل من يرزقكم من السماء والأرض أم من يملك السمع والأبصار ومن يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ومن يدبر الأمر فسيقولون الله فقل أفلا تتقون. This is the first principle that the Shaykh wanted to explain to us, and he said that we should know, O you seeker of knowledge, that verily the disbelievers that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has fought the disbelievers, and these people, the unbelievers, they believe and they confirm that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the creator of everything. Likewise, He is the provider. He is the one that provides for them their affairs, and He is the one that give life and take lives. And Allah also is also in charge of their affairs. He is the controller of all their affairs. Despite that, the prophets fought them, and this belief that they have did not bring them into Islam. And this type of tawheed that the disbelievers have is indeed tawheed al-rububiyyah. Tawheed, believing in the lordship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah is the one in charge of all things. The kuffar, they believe in this, and yet this belief, this type of tawheed, did not take them into Islam. And the evidence in which the Shaykh brought to us that indeed the unbelievers, they believe in this type of tawheed al-rububiyyah is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to us in Surah Yunus verse 31. Allah said, قُلْ مَنْ يَرْزُقُكُم مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Say to them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who provides for you from the sky and from the earth? Who is the provider? And who is the one that is in charge of your hearing and your sight? Ask them, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَمَنْ يُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. And also ask them that who is the one that brings out the living from the dead, and who is the one that brings out the dead from the living. One may ask that how can Allah bring out the living from the dead? Example of this is that if an hen should lay an egg, that egg is known to be dead, it's not alive. So Allah will now bring out a living from this unhatched egg. Once the egg should hatch, in which it turns to a chick, then for that instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought indeed a living out from the dead. A clear example is also the human. When human, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from us, will produce a semen, a nutfa, mixed drops of the male and female sexual discharge, in which from this semen, which is dead, Allah will bring out living from it. Allah will bring out the living from this dead semen. And likewise, Allah also is the one that brings out the dead from the living, in which we human, we produce out semen, then from that nutfa, from that mixed drops of the male and female sexual discharge, it will now turn to a a clot of blood. Then from that, it will now turn to a little lump of flesh. Then from that little lump of flesh, it will now turn to bones. Then Allah now clothed these bones with flesh. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring out the living from the dead, and Allah also bring out the dead from the living. So ask them, وَمَنْ يُدَبِّرُ الْأَمْرِ, and who is the one that disposes affairs? The kuffar will not give you any response than to say that فَسَيَقُولُونَ اللَّهِ. They will respond that it is Allah. Allah is the one in charge of all of this. Then say to them, Ya Muhammad, فَقُلْ أَفَلَا تَتَّقُونَ, then will you not then be afraid of Allah's punishment? Why can't you then be afraid of Allah's punishment? By accepting faith and by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without setting up rivals with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the kuffar, they believe in all of this, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in charge of all their affairs, and yet they are not classified to be Muslim, because the main tawheed, which is tawheed al-uluhiyya, they lack such tawheed. There are also many verses in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring to us, is telling us that indeed the disbelievers, they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one in charge of their affairs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is informing us again in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Quran 23, verse 84. Allah said, قُلْ لِمَنِ الْأَرْضُ وَمَنْ فِيهَا إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Say to them that who is the earth, whose is the earth, that is, who is the owner of the earth, and whosoever is therein, if you know. Ask them, Ya Muhammad, ask them. سَيَقُولُونَ لِلَّهِ. They will respond to you, Ya Muhammad, that it is Allah's. Allah is the owner of the earth, and whosoever is in the earth. Then قُلْ أَفَلَا تَذَكَّرُونَ, then will not then remember Allah? Why can't you remember Allah and fear Allah? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is informing us that the kuffar, they believe in this type of tawheed al-rububiyyah, yet this type of tawheed will not make them to be Muslim. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to explain to us, that the kuffar believe in this type of tawheed. And this is the first principle that we as Muslims need to know, that that indeed this act did not make them to be Muslims. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for us all. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.